After 3 tours of duty in Iraq and Kuwait, 28-year-old Nicholas Horner returned home to Pennsylvania, a broken soldier.
He was at the VA hospital crying to them, "I got to be an inpatient. You got to put me in." They told him, "Come back in a month."
This week, we hear a whistleblower who raises questions about fatal flaws at the Veterans Administration.
Anybody who had a traumatic brain injury in the military, they went on a list, but they never received the traumatic brain injury care.
He will be held accountable.
For the first time in 2 decades, a U.S. president faces the threat of impeachment.
It's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace.
This week, we investigate the controversy and how it all began.
The place was made famous by an iconic film.
Welcome to Morocco.
This week, we take you to a much more colorful side of Morocco.
Hello, welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Today we begin with an investigation into the taxpayer-funded bureaucracy where millions of our military veterans get their medical care, the VA. It's a story about the intersection of 2 Army vets who never met but together exposed what some see as fatal flaws in a troubled system. After 3 tours of duty in Iraq and Kuwait, 28-year-old Nicholas Horner returned home to Pennsylvania, a broken soldier. He suffered traumatic brain injuries after multiple explosions.
He got blowed back and under a Humvee, and he said he was trying to come out. He thought he was buried. A big poster.
Karen and Daniel Horner are Nick's parents.
And then one other time, a grenade went off. He was in a Humvee, and a grenade rolled over the roof and went off.
Experts say since 2001, as many as 750,000 U.S. military service members have suffered traumatic brain injury, or TBI, from concussive blasts.
His personality was just totally off.
He changed?
Oh, yes.
He just wasn't the same anymore. He didn't hardly talk and stuff, and he just wasn't the same old friendly guy. I just don't know what to say. It was different.
This is Horner in happier times with one of his children. By the time he was discharged with TBI and post-traumatic stress disorder, the Army had prescribed no fewer than 11 drugs, according to his records, and he reported suffering hallucinations, seizures, depression, anxiety, and flashbacks.
He said that he was going to come and work with me at my business, and I thought, oh, that'd be great. And next thing I know, he calls me up one day and he says, "I got out, Dad, and I'm in Altoona." I said, "What are you doing in Altoona?" He said, "I want to be near the VA hospital." And then I finally started realizing this must really be bad.
The James E. Van Zant VA Medical Center in Altoona was an hour's drive from Horner's hometown of Johnstown, Pennsylvania. His plan was to be close to the hospital so he could get intensive help. But he told his parents that his repeat requests to be admitted for inpatient treatment were denied, and he only got worse.
He had guns hidden all through his house, under couch cushions, in the bedroom, in the basement. When he'd even go to the bathroom or he was home by himself, he would lock all the doors because he was just so afraid.
And he'd hide in the corner even.
And cry.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, just in the big picture, what could have or should have been done initially when he came back that last time and was suffering?
The VA should have got him a room in there and put him in there and helped him get off all them drugs and helped him, and treat him for TBI.
Horner wasn't the only vet who didn't get the help he said he needed at the Altoona VA Center for his traumatic brain injury.
These are high-risk patients that have homicidal, suicidal behavior, self-destructive behavior, so they're supposed to be one-to-one closely monitored.
James D'Onofrio, an Army vet and an administrator at the Altoona VA Center, says he was shocked to discover a long list of vets languishing without a treatment plan for their traumatic brain injury.
What the hospital was doing, anybody who had had a traumatic brain injury in the military, they went on a list, but they never received the traumatic brain injury care. So there was 600, I believe 600 patients on that list. And out of that 600, as I drilled down, 6 had committed suicide. One veteran had gone and shot up a local Subway.
The vet who'd shot up a local Subway restaurant was Nick Horner. He shot 2 employees, killing one during a robbery attempt, then shot and killed another man a few blocks away. It all happened not long after a last desperate visit to the Altoona VA Center.
Well, he was at the VA hospital crying to them. He even told me, I cried to him, Dad, I gotta be an inpatient. You gotta put me in. I'm having all kind of problems. You know, he listed them all down for him, everything you could imagine. And they told him, come back in a month.
Karen Horner got the sickening news about her son while recovering after a heart procedure.
I was in a hospital and everyone showed up to tell me that Nick shot and killed some people. So my son would never do this. Never in his right mind would he ever do this.
No.
What did he say to you afterwards? Did he say if he was in any kind of thought process, or did you talk to him about it?
No idea what really happened. He thought, what he really said, he thought he was chasing somebody that did the shooting, he said. And when the police did arrest him and taser him and everything, he asked the police if they caught the guy. He didn't know what was going on. The thing with Nick, though, is he said, I don't remember doing it, but if I did it, I need to be put to death. That's what he told me. And he ended up, getting 2 life sentences, but he said that was fine with him. He did it, he needed to pay.
Alarmed by what he discovered about Horner and other vets on the wait list, D'Onofrio blew the whistle.
Who'd you report to?
I reported to my leadership and gave the report, went the whole way to DC, and my assumption was that this would be addressed. Came back a year later, did my own review, found out that the patients were still on the list. There was, I think, 100 that still weren't getting care after I had identified every single veteran, given them their names. And there was more patients on the list. Another veteran shot himself, which is, as a soldier myself, that's heartbreaking, especially when I literally handed it to him on a golden platter and said, here's who you fix.
Instead of fixing it, D'Onofrio says the leadership at the Altoona VA Center launched a lengthy retaliatory campaign against him, turning his job into a nightmare while he continued to blow the whistle on other problems he said put vets' lives at risk.
At that point, you basically become a persona non grata, and people don't speak to you. I think I've had 18 investigations launched against me and the people that testified on my behalf.
They do things to you to make you suffer or make you regret being a whistleblower?
Yes, as a military intelligence specialist. If I treated my prisoners the way that the VA treats me as a whistleblower, they'd probably charge me with war crimes. That's what it's like to be a whistleblower at the VA.
The Altoona VA Center denied our interview requests and issued a written statement. VA conducted an in-depth review of these allegations, which date back to the previous administration, and determined all of the most serious charges were not substantiated. They added the Inspector General, quote, determined VA adequately addressed the allegations and closed its case in 2016. And they deny retaliating against D'Onofrio, quote, just because someone identifies as a whistleblower, they say, doesn't automatically give credence to their claims. D'Onofrio still works for the VA as he pushes national initiatives to protect whistleblowers and clear backlogs of federal whistleblower cases.
Yeah, I kept my job, but we went through hell for 6 years.
What makes you stay at a job when that's going on? It must be very stressful. Why don't you just call it a day?
If I wouldn't have done it, if I don't continue to do it, who will?
There's a final tragic note to the story of Nick Horner, who was still suffering his brain injuries in prison when we began investigating this story. In August, he reportedly committed suicide in prison by stabbing himself with a pen. He was 39. Ultimately, Horner's parents blame a broken system for their son's death and the deaths of the innocent people he shot.
If the VA would have done its job, those people would still be alive.
Yeah, 3 people would be alive.
Mm-hmm.
You said he wrote you a letter. What was the gist of that in the letter?
How much he loved us and how thankful he was for us. And he even tried to make us smile in this letter. And he wants us to help the soldiers.
To the whistleblower that I guess you haven't met and haven't heard of, but he tried to blow the whistle on these people who are languishing on the list. Any thoughts about that?
Too late for us.
For us.
Maybe, you know, can help a lot of other ones, though.
Yes, that's what Nick would want. He wants us to do as much as we can for the vets everywhere.
Among other complaints, D'Onofrio, the whistleblower, claims reprisal by the very federal office created in 2017 to protect whistleblowers, the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection. They told us they're committed to protecting whistleblowers and correcting any issues. Ahead on Full Measure, as Democrats talk impeachment, James Rosen will be here to report on the impeachment whistleblower controversies. For the first time in 2 decades, a U.S. president faces the threat of impeachment, which in simple terms means Congress may officially charge President Trump with wrongdoing. James Rosen has been investigating the story and has a fascinating look at the controversy over how the origins of it all began.
He will be held accountable. No one is above the law.
It's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace.
At the heart of the impeachment crisis is this 9-page complaint filed by an anonymous whistleblower on August 12th. It accused President Trump of improperly pressuring Ukraine's president for political reasons during a phone call they had in July, though both men have said nothing improper took place.
I think good phone call. It was normal. Nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
The White House quickly released the call's official transcript. It shows President Trump did ask Zelensky to look into former Vice President Joe Biden, who's now running for president. Mr. Trump says the request was proper because it was aimed at rooting out corruption, a pervasive problem in Ukraine.
Well, good afternoon.
Allegations of corruption involving Mr. Biden first surfaced last year. He actually boasted that as vice president, he had gotten a Ukrainian prosecutor fired by threatening to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid.
I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Mr. Biden insists the prosecutor was corrupt. But it turns out that that prosecutor was reportedly investigating a Ukrainian company whose board of directors included the former vice president's son, Hunter Biden. Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. He insists President Trump was just looking for dirt on a political rival and using U.S. military aid as leverage to get it, something Schiff charges is an impeachable offense. But there are questions about Schiff's role in the whistleblower complaint. Schiff initially said he first learned about the complaint on September 9th, but did not learn its contents at that time.
We only know some of the facts at this point.
Later, the story changed. Schiff's office confirmed to the New York Times that the whistleblower had in fact outlined his complaint to Schiff's staff before filing it. Congressional sources have confirmed to Full Measure that the whistleblower was required to disclose his contacts with Congress on the form submitted along with his complaint, but did not. Likewise, Chairman Schiff withheld the contacts from Republicans on the Intelligence Committee, including Ranking Member Devin Nunes.
I mean, most of us feel that we were not only misled, but deliberately lied to. As best as we can put it together, there were multiple conversations between the whistleblower and staff, and then there was at least one, if not more, conversations between the whistleblower and Schiff.
On September 17th, More than a month after the Democrats on Schiff's intelligence panel learned the contents of the complaint, Chairman Schiff made this claim about his staff.
We have not spoken directly with the whistleblower.
2 days later, Schiff told reporters he still did not know the contents of the complaint, something he repeated on television for days to come.
And again, I don't know if this is the subject of the whistleblower complaint.
And we don't at this point know whether the reporting is correct that the complaint involves this call or...
The whistleblower could have come to our committee at any time, but it might mean the whistleblower forfeits the protection against losing his or her job.
And Sharyl, we contacted the office of Chairman Schiff for comment. They never responded.
What do you think is the significance of the whistleblower going to Democrats before, filing the complaint? Is there anything wrong with that?
Not necessarily. It could be one of the standard paths that a whistleblower in this kind of case would follow. But the fact that Chairman Schiff withheld those contacts from the public, from the Republicans on the committee, it adds fuel to claims by Republicans that there is something manufactured about all of this.
Because there would have been nothing wrong necessarily with Schiff admitting or acknowledging this contact.
If all his staff had done, as they originally said, was simply to steer the whistleblower to an appropriate attorney and encourage them to go through a different kind of process.
And it gets complicated, but it's worth reminding, there are accusations that President Trump is interfering politically with things, but Democrats are also interfering with the president and some of the actions they take. So these accusations kind of loop around and
it's
get
a poisonous
circular.
Atmosphere in general.
You've written an acclaimed book about the Watergate scandal, so you know something about impeachment. Any thoughts about where all of this is going?
Right now, the movement in the House of Representatives shows that impeachment is picking up velocity. The House Democrats seem determined to bring up articles of impeachment and vote them out. The Senate, as presently constituted, is never going to convict President Trump in any kind of impeachment trial. They may move simply to dismiss the indictment, if you will, the impeachment as a matter of course. But this is serious, and I think it will have an impact on the elections. I think there is some growing evidence that Americans are bothered by the whole episode.
Okay. Well, thanks for tracking it for us. Appreciate it, James.
Thank you, Sharyl.
Coming up on Full Measure, a follow-up to our reporting about 5G safety concerns where new red flags are being raised. Next week on Full Measure, we take you to Arizona and a county once overrun by Mexican drug cartels. Our investigation found a dramatic turnabout. How they found a solution without federal funding, big tech, or even a border wall. Next week on Full Measure. Finally, on a recent work trip to Morocco, Scott Thuman took time out to experience the famous ancient city of Casablanca, where there's a lot to see and taste.
With 2 millennia of history and mystery to boast of, Morocco carries an allure that most countries can't. From ancient and picturesque waterfalls to its maze-like medinas, practically begging you to wander until you're lost, which we realized happens pretty easily. Exploring on our own is captivating, but to really understand this cultural destination, best to have a local at your side. That's Munya. She's been around the world but calls Casablanca home and admits this is what draws many people to Morocco. We chose to bypass the famous Rick's Cafe in Casablanca, heading instead to the old Medina, to what I really wanted.
Welcome to Morocco.
Food. So what are we having? What is this?
This is Moroccan soup.
Okay. What's it called?
Harira.
Hadira.
Harira.
Hadira.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So we can taste it?
Yeah. It's got really good flavor. Spices a little bit thick. It definitely feels like something you would be eating in a place like Morocco because it reflects like the art and the culture and the creativity. It's and the tradition. You can tell it's like something that's been around for a million years. It's great. Not this particular bowl. That would be bad. And with each Moroccan meal, what seems like the national drink, breathtakingly hot sweet mint tea. How many teas does the average Moroccan drink a day?
Oh my God, depends. Maybe 10.
10?
Maybe 5, depends of the person.
All right, well, let's make this number 1 of 10.
Other thing.
Yes.
In Morocco, we can eat in all the plates.
Oh, you may order something, but you're saying it's not just for you.
No, it's not just for me. It's for all the people.
You take from everyone's plate.
Yeah.
Well, don't take this. I like this. These are mine. Okay. Let's make these mine. And here you can have this and that's it.
Okay.
It's not very friendly of me.
Are you sure?
No. We'll share. You've been a gracious host. We can share. This isn't all about Casablanca cuisine. Inside the walls of the Medina, you live, shop. Do you have those?
Yeah, but it's for men too.
And you want me to wear? Oh, okay. Well, it's nice to know that you're already telling me how to dress, and we've only known each other an hour. It is a sometimes mind-boggling and eye-opening mix of old and new in Morocco, where you can be in Marrakesh's market of snake charmers, or take a train that's faster than anything in America to one of the most stunning sunset beaches you'll ever come across. In Morocco, Scott Thuman for Full Measure.
An amazing place. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.